Well, my name is Phil Lindeman. I'm with Crystal 93 Radio. I'll be one of your co-moderators today for today's candidate election forum. It is the biggest candidate field we have in the county for this election. 12 candidates, all of them joining us. Yeah, feel free to applaud. They're doing the hard work, putting themselves out there, putting themselves on the ballot to help serve you over the next few years. And today's event, we will be hearing from all the candidates. They'll have the chance to introduce themselves. And then we have 3 questions that they have not seen yet. And every one of them will get time to answer those questions, how they see fit. And then afterwards, stick around because you'll have time to go one-on-one with any of the candidates. We'll have some time for you afterwards to ask them direct questions, anything that they didn't cover during the forum. So feel free to stick around. They'd be more than happy to hang out with you and talk later. And to my left, my co-moderator, I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew Maciejewski, editor of Summit Daily News, and definitely happy to be here. Excited to have such participation in this year's Frisco Town Council election. And just so we do a rundown, we're going to give each candidate 1 minute to introduce themselves, and then we'll go through the 3 questions, and then we'll have a minute for closing statements. And we do ask the candidates not to interrupt each other, and you can use that time for your closing statement to get to anything you may want to clarify or add to. And with that, I think let's begin. All right. So we've, for the intros, we are going to go with the ballot order to start things off. So we're going to start with Mark, and then we will move on to, we have a randomized list of who will begin the next questions in order to make it fair for you all on who's in the hot seat first. So with that, we'll let Mark begin with his 1-minute introduction.
Hello, my name is Mark Waldman. Mary and I have been living here, or came to Frisco in 2002. We came to run the Hotel Frisco back then. We had an SBA loan and a plan to stay for just a few years. 24 years later, we're still here. That's a normal story. As the community has grown, we have grown, and we've moved on to own Summit Mountain Rentals, a local property management company with over 50 employees, including workforce housing that we provide for our staff. In addition to the past service on the Frisco Planning Commission, Mary and I have been involved in almost every event and every issue in the community for the last 20 years. I'm also finishing a master's in management at the London School of Economics, and I've been a local business owner, an employer, a neighbor, an engaged citizen for the last 2 decades. I'm running because I love Frisco. I want to bring my 2 decades of experience and skills to help build a more cohesive community. I'd be honored to have your vote.
And thank you. And Stacy, do we need a second to get the clock? Yeah, no worries. I was timing on my phone, and you were right on a minute, so that was perfect, yeah. Yeah.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Alex Beach. I've been up here in Frisco for over a decade. Most of you might know me from the Island Grill at the Frisco Bay Marina. I've been bartending down there for 10 years. That's where most people in town know me from. Also, maybe Prost, Pullman Distillery, Copper Mountain, Syndicate Brewing. It takes a lot of jobs to live up here. There is a large portion of our community that works 5 jobs, that has 5 roommates, that is struggling to make ends meet. I'm running for town council because I feel like our demographic is not being represented. Our voices are not being heard because we don't have the time or the bandwidth to participate in local government. People in my situation are just surviving, just trying to make ends meet to be able to stay in our amazing community. And I think we need to have a better diversity of representation on town council, those of us who are busting our butts, providing services to this town and grinding just to be able to stay up here. So I'd be happy to have your vote to be able to fight for those of us in the community that may not have our voices being heard over the last few decades in town. Thank you.
And Eric, you can start.
I'm Eric Klein. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to see such a great turnout tonight. I know many of you through this community, and Similar to what Mark and Alex have said, that's why I'm here. I care deeply about Frisco, and that is the number one reason why I'm here. Joy and I have lived here approximately 26 years. We raised our kids here. We moved out of Frisco once and expeditiously moved back. Housing, what Alex was talking about. My mentor in the business acquired the Peak 1 parcel. I was on the committee who helped get it built with Mercy Housing. I recently sat on the committee with some of you for the housing portion and the inclusion for the strategic plan. But I hope tonight we get a chance to talk about business and Main Street activation and those types of things, because I've been speaking to a lot of you as business owners, just like myself. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Thayer Hirsh, and like many of you here, I love Frisco. I love our trails, our Main Street, and the people and culture here. Like many of you, I wear a lot of hats. I've been an entrepreneur, soccer coach, served as the executive director of the economic development organization up here. But most importantly, I'm the dad to 2 kids at Frisco L. Like anything I do, I want to do my homework. So for the past several months, I've met with staff, I've met with every single town council person, and I've attended the meetings to understand what this town faces in the next month, next year, and next decade. I don't have all the answers, but what I promise to you, the constituents here, is I'm going to do my homework. I'm going to meet with you. I'm going to figure out compromise, because democracy works best as compromised. I'd be honored to have your vote, and thank you for being here.
Hi, Andy Held. I am Mayor Pro Tem of the Town of Frisco. And thank you all for being here. Thanks for showing up and considering voting for 4 of us. I've been here since 1987. I've served on the Frisco Town Council for 6 years. I was on the Planning Commission for 2 years prior to that. Nowadays, I am also serving on the board of the HC3 and the Summit County Wildfire Council. I am rerunning for my last term to see through all of the good things that we've gotten going in these last 6 years. It takes so much longer than anyone could imagine to make things happen on the governmental level. I'm a general contractor. I'm in building. I'm very familiar and have my hands in a lot of projects here right around town. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. I hope you'd consider voting for me.
Hello, my name's Mary Fletcher. I moved to Frisco in 2011, probably for similar reasons to all of you. I don't know why this is. What? Anyhow, I love the outdoors and skiing, mountain biking, and I'm a lawyer. That's what I do for a living, and I'm grateful to be able to maintain an active law practice and live in Frisco at the same time. I don't know if this is working. I just turned 50. I'm just going to talk louder. And decided that it was time for me to give back to this community that I've gotten so much from. And I want to serve this community that I, like everyone else here, love so much and hope to always call home. My goal for running is to be accessible to residents and understand the needs and wants of the people that live in Frisco, and work to accomplish those while preserving the small town values that I think make Frisco unique and different than the resort. Okay.
It's working? All right. Hi, I'm Brian Randall, and I'm running for Frisco Town Council, like many of the people up here, because I love this town. From the very first moment we drove in here, we found out this is the place we wanted to live. It's an incredible place, not just because of the mountains and the outdoor lifestyle that's here, which most people are attracted to, but like many of you, I've seen how much this town has changed in the last 4 or 5 years. Because of that, I believe we have an opportunity to shape this town and change it in a way that keeps Frisco the kind of place we want to live in. My priorities are making sure the voices of Frisco are heard by the residents mostly, and by improving communication, actively gathering community feedback, and ensuring that input doesn't just get collected, but it's used in all the decision-making processes. We want to hear from the people of this town more so than anything else. I'm not running with a single agenda. I'm running to listen, to show up prepared, and to collaborate, and to be a strong voice of the community. And I would be honored to have your support.
Hi everybody, my name's Robyn Goldstein. I just want to say thank you all for showing up. It's so great to see all this engagement with council members and with the community. A little bit about me, I've been in Summit for the past 15 years. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I work in community mental health just up the road at Mile High Behavioral Health. I also have a private practice on Main Street. Speaking of 5 jobs, like Alex mentioned, I also teach yoga and I am on Breckenridge Ski Patrol. I am here to listen. My work as a social worker provides me with a really deep and unique understanding of the challenges that our community faces, and I hope to be a voice to a lot of folks that can't show up or that want to engage. I'm always happy to listen. I always want to meet with you all, so feel free to reach out if you have any questions, want to just grab a cup of coffee, go for a walk, talk about things that are important to you. I'm here to listen. Thank you for having me.
Good evening. My name is Durant Abernethy. I'm a primary care physician at High Country Healthcare here in Frisco. I've been working there since 2013, but I've been a resident of Frisco full-time since 2018. I'm actually the only internist in the county, which basically means I do my best to wear a lot of hats for a lot of the medical specialties we don't have up here. I get to see a very complex array of people on any given day. At these appointments, a lot of people think it's social hours, so we get to talk about a lot of the issues going on in town. But I also get to see a lot of people from different backgrounds, whether they're in the C-suite of a large corporation or perhaps living out of a tent in the woods behind the hospital, maybe standing on the median by Taco Bell. So I think I can help bring perspective from some of these underrepresented groups. And when caring for some of their problems, we aren't just pushing a pill or a prescription. We have to understand their living situation, their work situation. Sorry. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Skrzypczak-Adrian. I am running for re-election for Town Council. I've been on Town Council the last 4 years. I moved here in the mid-90s as a young person. I don't know, I'm feeling young, but time goes by. But anyway, I started out as the kind of person that was like one more year, and then eventually I ended up building my life here. And it's been a really cool journey with watching Frisco and the population and the community. We all kind of grew up together, We're all sharing a lot of the same challenges and successes in our lives together over, 30 years. And so I really love this community. I own a business on Main Street, Frisco, Rocky Mountain Coffee Roasters. I have 2 kids that I am wrangling.
Good evening, everyone. First off, thank you all for coming and expressing interest in learning who your potential candidates are for Town Council. There are 4 seats up for renewal, and that is majority of the seats. So you have a real opportunity to shake up Town Council if you feel that is the right way to do things. My name is TJ Paulus, and I live in Frisco, own a small business that has been serving Frisco and Summit County since 1999. And more importantly, I met my fiance here in Frisco, so I love living here and want to retire here. I see firsthand the opportunities and challenges community face through the businesses and other business owners that I work with. And Frisco is an incredible place to live, work, and visit. But it can also be an incredibly hard place for young couples to start a family, businesses to attract and maintain quality employees, and retirees to maintain their quality of life. A prosperous, multi-generational community is what makes our culture the strongest. I'm a big believer in that. I am running for town council because I believe Frisco is one of the greatest places to travel and recreate, but I also believe it could be a great place to raise a family, start a business, and retire at. Thank you.
Well, thanks everyone for being here. My name's Zach Ryan. I am currently one of your town council members. I was appointed last February. I moved to Frisco the day after I graduated college in 2014 to work at Woodward at Copper Mountain, Frisco's home mountain. Over the years, I've worked in almost every industry in Frisco. 8 years at Whole Foods. I currently work at Elevated Community Health as Community Engagement Manager to make sure that folks in the High Country know about healthcare resources available. I also work 4 or 5 nights a week at a local restaurant. I've worked in HVAC, plumbing, the service industry, and as a ski coach. Like many people, worked many jobs to make this lifestyle possible. I am lucky enough that I was just able to purchase a deed-restricted home in August, so Frisco is my home for the long term. Purchased that home with my partner. Our son is in first grade at Frisco Elementary. It gave me a real understanding of the workforce, what it means to be part of the workforce, and why I'm here to represent that workforce and everybody as a whole. So thank you all for being here and hope to gain your vote. Thanks.
Great, thank you everyone. And like we said, we've got 3 questions for you, and we've got a random order for these 3 questions. So yeah, I want you to pass that on down to Eric. He's going to be the first one answering our first of 3 questions. Yeah, microphone roulette out there. All right, so Eric Klein will be first, and then after everybody's finished, you'll have 2 minutes for these responses on these questions. After you're finished, I'll go ahead and let you know who the next person's going to be, and let's get rolling. So question number 1, this is for everybody. Why are you running for Frisco Town Council? And Eric, we'll start with you.
Well, I think you heard from 12 people here a very similar story, Phil, and to our great guests in attendance is we care. But where does it go from there? I think that one thing that I could do for the town is tap into our experience. Let's cut right into the meat of it. Who's familiar with the B1 parcel in Frisco? Gary, Chris, I see some very people that we know. One thing that our Mayor Pro Tem mentioned is it takes a long time to activate these things. He said he's been working on something like, he's been working on Frisco's backyard very hard. And he's also on the fire committee. So I talked with Sam Massman, one of our local Forest Service employees, about the work that Andy's doing so I could get up to speed because I haven't been to every one of Andy's council meetings. But let's take something as simple as the B1 parcel. Who wants to attach a number to that? That could be something as high as a $6 million asset for the town of Frisco. Our rent on that parcel is currently, any guesses, $4,200 a year from the farm stand. I don't necessarily want the farm stand to go away, but I think what we need is some long-time people that can be engaged on these type of things. We could put this out for RFPs and start talking about these things. If Tom Fisher's here tonight, I know he's in it with us. I hope he's going to be here for a while, and I think we can have some continuance, thank you, Tom, with Andy's ideas and some input from some new ideas. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Eric. Mary will be up next, Mary Fletcher. Why are you running for Frisco Council?
I'm running for Frisco Town Council because at this point in my life, I have gotten so much from Frisco and living here over the last 15 years that I want to give back. I'm a lawyer by trade, and I feel that my skill set could bring to Town Council something that none of the other candidates can, because basically what I do for a living as an 18-year lawyer is negotiate, try to find people that have different goals and work together to figure out what compromises need to be made on each side so that everyone gets what is the best for them. So I think that, having gone to town council meetings and understanding the issues that are in front of town council, The role of town council is to adopt local laws and regulations and to approve the budget. And I think that I have a valuable skill set that I could bring to that forum. I don't have any agenda. I want to know what the residents, which is who I would be serving in this role, want. And I want to make sure that I make myself accessible to them so that I can understand the wants and needs of everyone and use my skill set to hopefully keep Frisco the place that we all love, because I know that growth is inevitable, but we need to balance that with maintaining and preserving the historic values and sustainability and environment here in Frisco that we love so much. So that is why I'm running for town council.
Great, thank you, Mary. Now taking it to Zach. Zach, why are you running to defend your seat on council?
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity that I've had to serve the town of Frisco, and I want to continue serving as a town council member for a lot of reasons. What's at the top of my list is definitely to protect our small town charm. That's why everyone on this table is in love with the town of Frisco. We're a small town. We're not like all the other towns in Summit County. We're unique. There's a special charm here. It's really important to protect. I want to help advance real workforce housing solutions, just like our council has done. We have over 100 units coming to life here in the next couple months. To continue to do that is really important. We need a workforce here. We know the wealth disparity in our community is drastic, so supporting those who carry and actually work in our community is really important. Focusing on doing so at a lower cost per door is really important. Maintaining reliable infrastructure in town is something that's important to everyone. Making sure our roads are plowed, that our water is safe, all of that. It's not the sexy stuff, but it's important. It's what's going to help our town in the long run and avoid huge bills down the road. I want to keep Main Street vibrant, support local business, but not lose sight of how important Summit Boulevard and larger businesses are to our community. We are a sales tax economy. It is important that we welcome new businesses to Summit Boulevard, that we really focus on increasing sales tax as tourism changes. We don't know how many bad winters like this we're going to have, how low visitation is going to go, so let's support Summit Boulevard and increasing welcoming new businesses there. And I'm here to represent all residents. You know, we can all speak about what part of the community we're in, how many jobs we have. I'm not here to just represent our workforce or just represent the folks like myself that have 3 or 4 jobs. I'm here to listen to all of you and represent every individual opinion. This isn't an ideological thing. I'm here to listen to you and represent you.
Thanks, Zach. Pass that on down to Robyn, or Robyn's got a mic right there. And Robyn, why are you running to defend your seat?
Thanks for the question. I have so enjoyed my last year on Frisco Town Council. I care so deeply about this community, about people's quality of life, about getting everybody's needs met in a way that is attainable for our town. As a social worker, I am an expert listener. I don't claim to be an expert in most things, but listening is something that I'm very good at. And I hope that while keeping my time on council, I can continue to listen to all of you, to not just jump to conclusions, but to take the time to think outside the box, to find solutions that fit everybody's needs. I know a lot of issues have been mentioned so far, including housing, our economy. Keeping Frisco vibrant is something that I'm very passionate about. I think this winter has showed us that we don't know what we can expect out of our snowpack, and we need to think a little bit more outside of the box about how we can keep our economy moving smoothly. I'm here to listen, I'm here to learn, I'm here to advocate. I love being able to learn about the different topics that are coming through council chambers and to talk to different experts. My goal is to come to meetings prepared, to understand what issues are on the table, and to ask questions. And so I appreciate you all taking the time. Thanks.
Thank you, Robyn. Next, we have Mark. Mark, why are you running?
All right, I realize that I'm pretty short, so I'm going to stand up so you can all see me now.
You can stand on the chair if you want to.
Next question. I have to tell you that I'm running because you guys are all here, and let me explain. Mary and I have been to the Breckenridge and the Silverthorne events, and the audience here is equal to everyone at both events combined. Just really, if we could give ourselves an applause, we should give ourselves applause. Really great city. Kind of brings tears to my eyes. I'm running because of community. I think I've felt a little frustrated the last couple of years because I feel like there's been a lot of issues being resolved and a lot of people fighting against each other. So I define community as business owners, as employees, as tourists, as second homeowners, and as residents. It's everyone that comes here that enjoys and takes advantage of the city and brings something to it. And what I've seen in the past couple of years is this idea that one is against another and one is against another. And that's just not true. Everybody wants the same thing from Frisco. We want a beautiful Frisco. We all want more flowers in Frisco. We all want to have snow, and we want the business to do well, and we want the restaurants to do well. And we want our community to be able to live here and to work here and to be partners and to really love Frisco. And I'm running because I feel like that's missing. There's no reason for us to fight against each other. Workforce housing has got to be paid by the business owners and by the second homeowners, right? So you can't have each other without each other. And so my platform is really, we got to bring that community back and work with each other to solve problems. We have the people, we have the resources. For God's sakes, we have the money, right? We can solve the problem, we just have to work together.
Thank you, Mark. TJ, why are you running?
I'm running for Frisco Town Council because I believe, like many others here, I have unique experiences through my demographic, work experiences, living experiences that I can bring to the table. But first is kind of my viewpoint of how a town council should be ran and how we balance everything. My first business mentor taught me, in his opinion, and which I think applies more than anything in Frisco, the 3 steps to successful business in this order are happy employees through investing in your employees, because that'll equate to happy customers, to the interactions your happy employees have. Happy employees, happy customers equal a profitable, successful business. How does that relate to our community? Well, how are we going to make a happy community and a prosperous community? First, we have to invest in us, our locals, and our community. We have to have the balance between affordable housing, the balance between tourism and short-term rentals, the balance between regulation of businesses, and the balance of bringing new businesses in here. We have to have a happy visitor experience, because at the end of the day, our economy has largely been set up around tourism. And if we don't find other ways to kind of separate and differentiate, we are going to have downturns if we cannot find out a way to have positive visitor experiences. We've all had bad restaurant experiences from overworked employees, businesses that had to shorten hours, go to more day offs, all because they can't retain and attract quality employees. So we have to have a happy visitor experience balance. Happy community, happy visitors lead to happy generations or long-term prosperity amongst the community. If we can accomplish all of that, I think we're on the right track. On top of that, being a millennial generation, although I hate that word and that term, I have a voice of a lot of the people that are upset with the direction of the affordable living and scenarios we have in our community. On top of that, I don't have to recuse myself from deed restrictions. I was fortunate enough to buy a free market home in 2019, and now I can take that and have that voice for the people that cannot, that currently own town restrictions and so forth. Thank you.
Thanks, TJ. Now let's move to Brian. Brian, same question.
Hi there. One of the things I didn't get to tell you about was I have about 25, almost 30 years in big tech. I'm not a billionaire and I'm not trying to take over the world like some of the others we hear about, but in that experience, I got a chance to work overseas with a team of about 3,000 people. And when you work over in Europe, you have to learn how to collaborate. You have to learn how to work with other views and other ideas and even other cultures. And I think that translates directly into what we need to do here in Frisco. We have a lot of people that come from all over the country and from other countries, and we need to work together versus working against each other. I think there's opportunities to improve the way we do some of our processes, the way we take our information in, and the way we translate that into benefits for the community. My experience, maybe some of you heard something about Six Sigma or quality. I did that my whole life and career, and not my whole life, but my whole career. And it feels like my whole life. And that, I think I can translate back to what happens here in Frisco. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Brian. Next, Alex. Why are you running?
Hi, again, Alex Beach. The main reason I'm running for town council, for the last 10 years, I have been advocating and working around the town and the county for affordable workforce housing. Whether that's going to town council meetings, county commissioner meetings, Summit Combined Housing Authority meetings, writing op-eds to Andrew's newspaper, sitting down with Phil at Crystal 93 and discussing the plight of the working class in our town. This has been something that's animated me and I've been passionate about for the last decade. Obviously, selfishly for myself to stay here, but also because I've watched, I'm sure we've all watched hundreds of our friends, our community members, our family members get priced out of this town, get forced out and have to leave. I think the town has lost the plot when it comes to affordable housing development and affordable housing regulations in town. For example, there is currently a deed-restricted workforce housing unit listed right now for almost $700,000. That's a one-bed condo. How can anyone actually do that? They don't even call it affordable housing in town anymore. They call it attainable housing because they know it's not affordable. I think that's a cop-out. I think we need to be doing more for our working class, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs says safety and security is on the bottom. Until we do that, until you have a roof over your head that a landlord can't take away from you, that can't be turned into a short-term rental, nothing else that the town council does matters, right? We need to have our locals here. Some of you may be sitting in the audience tonight saying, I'm a business owner, I'm established, I'm fortunate enough to have a market rate home. Why is that important for me? Well, if you're a business owner, you have employees. What if we're all over in Kremling, Leadville, Fairplay, or further, and there's a snowstorm? Your business isn't opening, right? We provide the vibe, the character of this town. All of your property values are indirectly related to the quality of life in this town, the funkiness of this town, the people of this town, and the amenities that this town can provide. And in order to provide those amenities, you need a lot of cheap workforce that can be here, that can provide amenities and services and culture to our community.
Thanks, Alex. Elizabeth, you'll be next. We got a mic? Yeah. And Elizabeth, why are you defending your seat?
I am defending my seat, or rerunning for town council, because I want to keep going. I want to continue, see through to the end some of the things that have been in the works. We've been on a roll. We've accomplished a lot of cool things. We have sorted through our water supply and created a water tool, and we've examined our water infrastructure. We're working on the wildfire mitigation plan. We have a new comprehensive plan that I want to follow through with. We have some great ideas about economic development that we're going to sort through. Our housing needs assessment came out, and I've had the privilege of working for 3 years in creating over 100 affordable units that are right in downtown Frisco that will be AMI capped, and that's going to house our a lot of workforce. We have been, we've been on a roll. We have a great, I think I have a great relationship with town staff, and it's really easy to get things moving and get things going when you can have a lot of access to people to ask questions and to be able to develop ideas or research new things. I'd like to follow up on our climate action plan and make sure that all of the things in there are happen. We just have so many good things going, and I don't want to step away from it. I want to see things through to the end. And in between managing all the small or medium things that pop up in a municipal government, some of the things you can't see coming, But, just being courageous and brave to sit in that seat and give it your mindfulness to approach all these things that matter to our town, Is that time?
Thanks, Elizabeth. All right, getting down to our final three. Andy, motivations.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks. I am rerunning again to see through a lot of the great projects that we've put in place and the things that we've made happen. But first and foremost, I was here to represent my constituency, my longtime locals, our business owners. I have to say, I am not as focused at second homeowners and all. I really want to give my time and effort to the people that have gone out of their way to be here. We've all had to make sacrifices in order to do so. I am living what Alex had said as far as, for 40 years, we've had, multiple jobs. It's always been hard to make rent or make mortgage, or if you're lucky enough to have gotten in there. We're doing, again, as Elizabeth said, 106 workforce housing units. We've spent more money towards workforce housing now than we have in the last 30 years. There's no two ways about it. We're making things happen. I would love to see businesses of some level, not necessarily small businesses, provide for their own workforce housing as well. It's something I'm working on. I don't know that I'm going to be able to get Walmart, Whole Foods, Safeway, the hospital to be able to build their own. The hospital was going to, they chose not to. It's all on the taxpayers at this point to provide workforce housing. And it shouldn't be that way only, but we're trying to do the work. We're doing a lot of the work. I want to see through all the things we've got going, the fire mitigation and trails plan in the backyard, and that is my time. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Andy. Thayer.
Hi. I want to be on town council because my wife says I'm a glutton for punishment. But really, I want to be here because of the community engagement. I love being involved in my community. But I do see three priorities for our town. The first are schools. Many of you might know that Frisco Elementary, there is a possible plan to close it because of declining enrollment countywide. If that were to happen to our community, it doesn't really give a reason for families to be here. You would rather live in Summit Cove, Silverthorne, where it is cheaper housing and better community. So for the past couple months, we've been putting together grassroots efforts to vocalize families here in town. We've been submitting surveys and showing up to meetings. The second thing I see is housing. For over a year, I've been working for a local software company that provides affordable housing application systems to both for-profit corporations and nonprofits and government agencies across the country. Because of that, I've been able to see how different municipalities enact affordable housing. I want to leverage my experience, whether it's LIHTC, community land trusts, see what models work here for both public and private partnerships here in the community. The last thing, I want to keep our community here. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but it's pretty warm outside, and it's been really warm outside. 63% of the jobs in our community are tied to snow and tourism. So what efforts can we put together to build a diversified and resilient economy? This is something I've been really focused on for years. Last year, I actually put on a TED Talk that talks about how mountain communities can build resilient economies without losing their identity. So those are my three priorities, and again, thank you guys for being here.
Great, thank you, Thayer. And finally, in our random order, Durant.
Thank you. I think we have a lot of people up at this table and a lot of people here because we all realize there is some important changes that are going to happen, and it's going to impact this town for decades. Besides a crappy winter that exposed our weakness of tourism and hopefully not too much wildfire risk, we're built out. We can't geographically expand, so that means the composition or the demographic is going to have to change. and we have to make some important decisions about what direction that looks like. I don't know that all of us want our single homes scraped and quadplexes put in that place, but as we create different zoning, different deed restrictions or affordable housing or attainable housing, we also need to think strategically about where we want that. So if we are going to continue allowing short-term rentals, which I absolutely think we need, but they need to be limited, we should be trying to steer those people towards Main Street, towards Base Camp and Summit Boulevard, growing those economic arteries. I think it's important to not equivocate the terms of affordable and workforce and deed restriction. So a lot of the affordable housing going in that's AMI based is not necessarily restricted to Frisco or even just the 10-mile basin. It could be all of Summit County. And once we put some deed restrictions in place on some of these places, it can be very difficult to change. So I don't know that we want to be the affordable housing for all the people working in Breckenridge or Vale or Copper or anything like that. I think we should be trying to incentivize families in this town and growing. I want to keep Frisco Elementary, but I think we need to grow child care. If we can even find a way to steal Breckenridge Montessori and maybe put them in the old library on 90 Madison, I think that would be great too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That ends round one. We'll now move on to the second question. You'll have 2 minutes as well for this question, and we're going to start down at the end here with Zach. So if we could pass a mic towards Zach. All right, and the question is, what is the biggest challenge that Frisco faces, and why is it the biggest challenge?
I don't know that any of us can identify one single challenge that is the largest in Frisco. I would say that, we've all spoken about many of the challenges, but I think coming together, community, creative solutions is probably one of the hardest things. Everybody has their own beliefs, everybody comes from their own backgrounds, but to accomplish a healthy, thriving town, we really need to work together. We need public participation. It's great to see everyone here. I wish we had this at every single town council meeting, because when you have 7 elected representatives making all those decisions and folks aren't participating, it can be really difficult. So I would say I want everybody to be involved in this community as maybe a challenge to you all. I want you to come out. I want you to email, call, text your elected representatives, show up to town council meetings, share your perspective at public comment. That comes down to everything from a thriving economy, again, Summit Boulevard, welcoming businesses, and an eclectic, fun Main Street. Why we love Frisco. That trickles down to keeping our community safe, wildfire resilience, healthy and thriving town infrastructure. So I'm not going to attempt to identify one single major issue, but for me, you've heard what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about making sure that people can live here, and that's everybody in every stage of life, whether it's your first winter working at Copper Mountain in employee housing, or it's your 12th winter like myself, lucky enough to purchase a home here. If you own 3 homes and you short-term rent those, that's amazing. You're supporting our economy in a lot of ways as well, but I want everyone to participate. I want to hear your voices, and that's where I'm at. So please participate, get out there, and let us know what's going on from your perspective.
And next we'll start with Brian. So if Brian, you can pass. Oh, perfect. So Brian, same question. What is the biggest challenge that Frisco faces, and why is it the biggest challenge?
Sure. I think one of the biggest challenges we have here is balance. If you've been watching what's been going on around housing, we've seemed to have gone to one end of the guardrail. We were looking at some old forums from the past, and I remember Martin talking about vacant houses in 2016. So here we are 10 years later, we still have 50% of our houses in town are empty. If you go out walking your dog at night, you're going to see a lot of dark lights, or no lights, in fact, in those houses. So I think we need to figure out a balance. So it's not just about taking every square inch that we find available and turning it into workforce housing. I think there's opportunities to really work the short-term rentals as well as the long-term rentals. maybe incentivize, as I heard someone else say here, to get families in town. And I think balancing all of that is critical. I tend to think that we run from one end of the spectrum to the other. So I'd like to see us try to introduce some of that. So that's really it.
Great. Next, we'll have Thayer.
The biggest challenge I see, and I kind of highlighted before, is we're looking at a changing climate, and what that means for Frisco is a changing economy. As we see the snowpack dwindle, there's fewer people visiting our restaurants, our coffee shops, places like that. So and when that happens, that means there's fewer jobs and fewer people who are able to afford this incredibly expensive community here. So what we need to do is kind of hedge and diversify our economy. It doesn't mean we need to bring in Google or some tech company, but we need to enable strategies and programs that help our existing businesses diversify their revenue streams so they're not just reliant on the people visiting Summit County, but they have revenue streams outside. So for example, maybe you're an architecture firm who's focused here in Summit County, but with stable internet speeds, you can diversify and get clients across the country. Maybe you're a retailer on Main Street who needs help opening an online portal so they can begin selling excess inventory. I had that conversation just yesterday with a Main Street owner. I see this as the biggest thing challenging our Frisco. And so what that means finally is when we can provide better year-round jobs, that means people are getting better incomes and they're more likely to afford Frisco and afford the housing here. Thank you.
Great, and next up we have Elizabeth. Yeah, if you could pass the mic down to Elizabeth. Same question, yeah, what's the biggest challenge facing Frisco and why?
Think about that question, there's there's a ball of things, but I think one important thing that I always keep in the back of my mind is sales tax dollars. And that relates to our climate, it relates to, our visitation, our short-term rentals, our locals, all of the things that contribute to that tax dollar base is how we operate this town. And so any little piece that unbalances that or dents it, or this past year we did like a retreat for our capital projects, our 10-year plan, and it's really hard because when you look at that list of all these essential necessary things, whether it's maintenance, repairs, or adding something new, when you look at all this this list of capital projects and how you're going to pay for it, our sales tax dollars are the most important thing. That's why, and that's how we have every single thing we do in this town. So for me, whether it's climate or dwindling workforce, I don't know. There's just all those things that it's a delicate balance, and it's something that's always on my mind. So I don't want to call it a challenge, but it is. I mean, it's the number one concern in my mind is how do we keep that sales tax money rolling in, because it funds literally everything.
Great, thank you. And next we will have Alex Beach.
Hi, the biggest issue is obviously keeping our workforce here and having housing that's affordable. I think everything else that's been mentioned eventually ties back to that. For example, Frisco Elementary closing. Well, if families can't afford to live here, if they don't have housing, or they don't have secure housing and don't want to have children, there goes our enrollment at Frisco Elementary. Right? The workforce housing units that the incumbents have been discussing, I do want to commend them for building those. However, I think it's clear, or it's important to note that those are all rental apartments. These are not units to buy. These are not units to put roots down in. These are not units to build a family in. Right? These are 1- and 2-bed apartments in an apartment complex. That's great. We need that in town. We need that for the seasonal workers. We need that for the people that have just moved here for a couple of years. But eventually, you want to go into peak 1 neighborhood, right? You want to actually have a house. You want to be able to put some roots down. You don't want to be 50, 60 years old, retired, living in an apartment complex. Okay, so everything eventually is going to come back down to housing. I think we need to be prioritizing our long-time locals. Right now, the way that our deed-restricted workforce housing is allocated is based on a lottery system and not a wait list. I think we need to be going to a wait list so we can have the people that have been here 20 or 30 years. And yes, there are people that have been here for 30 years who are still throwing their name in every single lottery that we have for housing and losing. Okay, the Nelly's neighborhood that just opened in Bill's Ranch last year, there were like 12 units, 400 people entered that lottery. And a couple of those units went to people that have been in Frisco and Summit County for less than a year. That's great for them. I would have loved to have moved here and in 1 year have housing. But what about the people that have been here for 20 years, that have been members of our community, that have been paying taxes, that have been making relationships, that have been participating in government, that have been here and need housing and want to stay here and open a business and have a family and send their kid to Frisco Elementary? Why are we not prioritizing these people to be able to stay in our community versus people that just moved here?
Next up, we'll have Mark.
Well, I want to thank Alex because he definitely knows what he wants to do in the town council, and I definitely do as well. Going back to the message I started with, community. We've talked a lot about all kinds of issues on this table here. And again, I reiterating what I said before, we have the resources, we have the people, we have the money, we have the know-how. It's when we pit one piece of the community against another piece that we fail in accomplishing the solutions to them. We need to get together, work together, be a community, and solve problems. That's the way it was 20 years ago when we got here. Me and Mary arrived in the middle of a recession and somehow made it through, and 4 more recessions were still here. Workforce housing is extremely important, and I agree with Alex. And we're doing amazing things with it. We've got $4 million a year between 5A and the excise tax for STR. That's a lot of money every year that we can continue to have a long-term plan to address the issue over the long time. We've got economic issues. This last snow season, a disaster. If the gas prices continue to go up and the war in Iran continues, it's not going to be a great summer. We need to work together as a community to find ways to work through that problem, to support the local businesses, because without those jobs, we don't need workforce housing. And then lastly, it's not something that a lot have discussed here, but I think the environment is something also we want to consider that we have to work together with. We got a watershed area that we have to protect. We've got fire mitigation, which I think actually the city's doing a great job with. One thing that we don't take enough note at in this community is that Summit County is the last performing community as it relates to carbon emissions in Colorado. At least in Colorado, in the mountain towns. Again, another issue. These issues can't be solved without being a community. And that's what I really want to bring back to the town council and to the town.
Thank you. And next up, we'll have Durant.
I think we have a lot of people up here. Sorry, what's the question?
Yeah. What is the biggest challenge that Frisco faces and why?
Actually, I think the biggest problem or biggest challenge we can distill down to one thing is bums in seats, which is kind of ironic given how many people we have here. But we need to fill our housing stock. We have about 3,600 homes in Frisco. About a third of those are second homes. Right now, we're limiting short-term rentals to 25%. So we have almost 2,000 or, 60% of our homes that are not occupied some portion of the year. It's going to be hard to get a lot of patronage to Main Street and other businesses if we don't have people in houses. I already mentioned that I do think we need short-term rentals. Obviously, deed restrictions are a very passionate topic for a lot of people for different reasons. But it's very complicated, and once people are in deed-restricted housing, they could end up being handcuffed to their home if they, let's say we restrict them to Frisco or the 10-mile basin, but now they got a job opportunity in an adjacent town. Do we force these people out of their house? Do we give them a layover period? What about when we retire? What do these people do? Do we just kick them out of the county? So I think we have to give a lot of consideration to how we prioritize these housing restrictions where we want these restrictions, and make that center around trying to increase economic growth as much as we can. I would like to see priority given as opposed to a lottery system. So some people have priority points where how long they've lived here, whether they have a job, whether they have families, whether there are already indeed restrictions.
Thank you. And next up, we'll have Mary Fletcher. You could pass the mic to her. Same question. What's Frisco's biggest challenge and why?
I believe that Frisco's challenge is that we need to make sure that we're fostering economic and public frameworks that support local business and workforce, in addition to all community members. And obviously, workforce housing is important and needs to be a main objective. I think that focusing on continued capital improvements that cater to both community members and tourism are important because, as I think is clear from everyone talking tonight, livability in Frisco is intertwined with tourism. And I think that Town Council needs to be able to plan for and be flexible enough to adapt to environmental changes that are happening here in Summit County and in Frisco. So obviously there's lots of talk about climate. We've had a bad ski season. Tourism is down. That increases our fire risk here, which is something that I think all of us as people that live here in Frisco are concerned about, as well as it impacts not just the ski season or winter season tourism, but also the summer tourism, with the marina being pretty much, working at half-mast or even less than that upcoming season or the spring season. So I think having the flexibility to, plan for and how are we going to keep those revenue streams coming into Frisco so that we can support these other community initiatives and initiatives of local business and workforce, because the budget and the money that's coming into Frisco that's available for those types of programs is all dependent on sales tax. So I think we need to identify new sales tax streams.
Great. And if you could just pass the mic to the right, we're going to go to Andy.
Great, thanks. What's the largest challenge that we're facing is, it's a really broad question. I would say at this point, it's going to be that we have to figure out how to live in a warmer world, and that is affecting everything across the board. Since we've had a down ski season, and our economic vitality has taken it on the chin, and it's up to us on the council to figure out how we can support our local businesses and all, along with the warming world. We've also got Exit 203 is going to be happening for the next 2 years, and we have to figure out how to help the businesses along that corridor there. But I would say the biggest thing for me, or the thing that keeps me up at night, is the idea of wildfire, which is part of also this warming world. And again, as I identified the backyard in the first place as a fire mitigation project, if that were to burn, that would literally burn us, not be able to, it would essentially be the dark side of the moon in our backyard, and that would hurt our economic vitality. I think water is a big one. We are the water supply starting for the rest of the country. It goes both ways out of here, and as you can see already, we're going to have we're majorly depleted in how much water we have, and then that's also going to affect wildfire on top of that. We only have enough water paper rights to meet build out. We're not quite built out. We're very close. And this has been sort of the thing that's hindered us with projects like Lake Hill and whatnot. So all of these things are important. I think they all really tie to the climate because we are very climate-based resort place. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Next up, we have Robyn. So if you make sure that mic is on. What's the biggest challenge that Frisco is facing, and why is it the biggest challenge?
I think it's hard to identify one specific problem, as others have mentioned, but a challenge, as I've been reflecting on this question, that I see is general resilience of our community, and resilience referring to our climate and what this town relies on: tourism, outdoor recreation, also connection between people, creating that sense of community that is so important to our mental health as a whole. I also see big challenges with federal policies changing, the amount of federal dollars coming into our community, whether that's to our government or to our nonprofits, has changed significantly over the past year. And that has impacted our community members at a very deep level. I think that is going to be something that I would hope the town will be able to mitigate in the future as these changes start to hit even harder. With that, our town, like Elizabeth shared, gets money from sales tax. That is such an important aspect to our finances. I think it's important that we continue to support our businesses, continue to diversify our economy, so that way we can withstand whatever happens federally and whatever dollars come here or don't. Also, climate change is huge. Like Andy mentioned, the backyard is scary. It's a scary thought to think that a fire could start there. I've been really excited about the Frisco Backyard Fire Mitigation Plan. I really hope that happens soon and that we can continue to push that forward despite what money goes to the Forest Service or not. That is essential to our community maintaining, to our water quality, to our water availability. Those, I think, are our biggest challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Eric. Is there a mic around you? Perfect. Same question. Biggest challenge Frisco faces?
I think in the short term, the biggest challenge that we're going to face that's going to become reality very quickly here is 203. It's going to have a bigger hit than most people think. I've met with Vanessa, our communications director at the Town of Frisco, and I think council and staff are going to be relying heavily on her throughout this time. On a larger topic, I think we as a community can all do a better job of stop having the second homeowners and the tourism and us as locals be opposing forces. They're complementary forces, and it's what we need to pay for what Alex is so passionate about. When I look in this room and I see our history together, it makes me tear up. There's a member of our constituency here in this room who was on the board who got the 5A money through. He probably doesn't want to raise his hand in front of everybody, but he's here. There's a gentleman in the back of the room who built Peak 1. I understand it's all about housing, but Frisco's budget, gang, is $52 million a year. We can't buy our way or build our way out of this. We need revenue, and I think that needs to be a big focus. If we're on a slide, like Andy indicated, and we don't get in front of it, we need to probably watch these future expenditures. We need to put the wish list on hold and probably buckle down and prepare for what's going to be a hard time with this 203. That's the number one thing acutely that I think we're going to be dealing with, Phil.
Great. And next we have TJ, or last but not least.
I think the biggest issue facing Frisco and their voters today is really step one of my 3 parts to a prosperous community, and that's your happy community members and investing in our community, because I believe everything else here that we've all mentioned will fall in line once we figure out step one. Now, to avoid sounding like a politician, let's add some substance to those words. How are we going to do this? Well, first, it needs to be a balance. The word balance is brought up before. And the balance is between affordable living, short-term rentals, jobs, and legislative involvement, and how much are we going to participate in trying to improve all this. For housing, in my opinion, it needs to be multifaceted. If we're going to push more affordable housing, deed restriction, whatever the case may be, it needs to be multifaceted. AMI is a great tool for some areas. The problem here is our housing prices has outpaced AMI. 100% of AMI cannot buy a free market house. That's a problem. So we cannot use that measure for everything. And if we do, it needs to be constantly evaluated. One of the things that a lot of municipalities fall into is if something gets passed, it's great intention, but then the outcome long-term sometimes doesn't always follow through like that. So we need careful monitoring, constant communication, and constant adaptation if we need to. So it needs to be a mixture of everything, all different faucets, so to speak, on short-term and affordable housing. For our workforce, we need childcare. We're in a period where we're in dual income housing, dual income incomes, I should say, or dual family incomes is the right way to put it. We need that. So we need to have childcare to help support that. And it's not township's responsibility to pay for everything. It's our responsibility to share the cost, in my opinion. Find incentives to where we can make it attractive to do all these things. Share the cost with investors. Make it so investors aren't penalized for developing a new place and having to turn it into a low market cost house. We got to share some of these costs and still make it attractive.
Thank you, TJ. All right, one last question for everyone. And this time around, we'll be starting with Mary. Mary, you're going to be first. And this final question for everyone. So if the town received a $10 million grant and you were elected to council and you decided how to spend that money, what would you do with it and why?
If the town received a $10 million grant, I would want to take a poll of the residents and see what was important to them in terms of spending. I would look at the current capital improvements for the community that are currently planned and how each one of those, or the support for each one of those, and look at that issue. I think a good amount of that would also need to go to workforce housing, which obviously is a huge issue in our community. And then I would allocate the rest of it to looking at these climate issues that we've talked about in terms of preparing, identifying new revenue streams for, this area here, the Nordic Center, if there's not a lot of snow, for the marina, if there's not a lot of water. And then also, I think fire mitigation would need to get allotted some of that money as well.
Thank you, Mary. That's a tough question to have to be the first one to go on. Definitely. All right, next up, Durant. Same question. $10 million grant. How would you spend it and why?
Thank you for repeating the question.
Anytime.
So, senior care. The fastest growing demographic in Frisco is 65 plus. This is a question I get every day because we lack services and we have a hodgepodge piecemeal operation doing the best to fill those gaps, whether you're talking about Bristlecone Home Health. You've got Lean on Us, which is a newly started, but that's more end of life. But that's going to be a challenge because, even our own clinic, we would be fine hiring medical assistants as opposed to registered nurses. But there is a different compensation scale for each of those. We've had positions open for medical assistants for a year that never got an application. So, and that's who is usually the main workforce of any kind of assisted living community or skilled nursing facility. And so that comes back a bit to workforce housing. It's all connected. But we'd have to decide whether we're creating a campus or a facility that some of these people are either temporary or possibly more permanent residents versus trying to expand in-home care options. As part of that and our building strategy, I think most of the homes built in Frisco were not built with handicap accessible in mind. Few of them have a primary floor bedroom. So that would be a big chunk of it. I haven't gotten a chance to talk much about the fire mitigation, but I agree that is also something we need to make sure everybody has the support they need, whether it is changing the siding or home hardening. You know, a lot of people don't realize that their wood fences, their wood sheds, the log wood piles they have next to their house, this is all just fuel. And once a wildfire jumps from forest into town, there are modeling systems that have shown how badly this can go. And that one of those is called the Ember Alliance, and they were, heavily researching the Marshall Fire. I would ask them to do the same research for our town and our community.
Durant, thank you. TJ, $10 million grant. How'd you spend it?
$10 million grant, how would we spend it? I think it's very important to recognize that, and it's crazy to say this, never thought I would, but $10 million does not get a lot done in a township or in Frisco. I mean, if you were to buy land to make affordable housing, that's what, maybe a couple acres here if you were to buy raw land. I mean, our water system needs $30 million of investment just to have a backup well for redundancy and to eliminate PFAS and to have clean drinking water. That's $30 million. That's a third of the $10 million grant. The average person, including myself, before I really got passionate about this, really didn't know that millions doesn't go that far in this type of world, in this kind of scope. So how do we then make an impact with that? I think we do something that with that 10 million that can be a visible, direct change to our community, where they can, because the average person, $10 million sounds like a lot, and if they can't see anything, they're going to hate town council for it. Use that 10 million to put something in town. If it's a memorial, if it's a park, or if it's whatever, it's a live way to look at the town council spending a grant, spending money that was put somewhere. Because if we use it for our infrastructure, if we use it for that, the thing we're going to hear is, what did that $10 million get us? Because it's hard to make a visible change with $10 million in infrastructure, housing, and everything. Let's use that for a small token of appreciation back, or something for our community that they can see that we are trying to do the best with everything that we have.
TJ, thank you. Next, we have Eric, the grant.
Well, first off, I don't think anybody up here would say that they have a pet project that we want to go out and put $10 million on. So I really believe that throughout this process, I've talked to a lot of staff at the town, and I believe that's why we have a staff and a council. So get out there and vote. This is all about getting the vote out. So no singular item, but let's take Swan Mountain as an example and what's going on there. That project wouldn't be happening without leverage. So when you get these windfalls and these opportunities, I might have to thank Martin here for this one. I believe he spoke on it a few years ago at the candidate forum. These are great opportunities for leverage. So go out there, see if you have matching funds. If the county was redoing Swan Mountain on their own budget, they would be bankrupt, okay? So let's try, let's go out there, let's leverage that, see if we can get it out. The other thing, I have a few constituents that have been coming to me that, in their words, want to make Frisco fun again. And Vanessa and I, when she was the poor events director at the Town of Frisco, probably received more phone calls than she ever would have wanted from me about the fireworks, okay? Well, we all know now that we do them in the winter instead of the summer. Okay, but Lindsay, maybe we take a little bit of that and have some fun. Okay, let's make Frisco fun again. Maybe that we generate an idea with Lindsay, who is our events director at the town, to have a fun event that also drives businesses, to increase their revenue, and we get some tax from it to pay for everybody's most popular topic up here, housing.
Eric, thank you. Andy, the grant money.
Thanks. Yeah, 10 million. Well, first, grants don't work that way. You don't just get money to put to whatever you want. You actually have to be very specific at what it is you're asking for in order to get that money in the first place, right? But if this was just a windfall falling out of the sky and all of a sudden we had $10 million to spend, and what's that?
I said rich uncle, yeah.
Rich uncle. we identified in the 10-year capital project plan, there's $100 million of projects that we have around town that we'll never get to because we don't have that money. That's just the way that is, right? And if I had to pick one particular thing for the 10 million, if the 10 million was going to go to one project and that was all it could be, which is what grants typically are, I would say maybe updating Granite Street. And, we've already got a plan for that. We don't have the money for it at this point. That's something that would be in the plan, so it would be better accessed by pedestrians and bikes and everybody else. It'd be safer. There's a few other things. A tunnel under Summit Boulevard to keep it safer crossing over Summit Boulevard there is a big one. That would be $10 million alone. CDOT says that the spillway there is not big enough for a 100-year flood, and that would need to be enlarged, and that would be the place to get you across the road. We've spent money on the backyard, and the National Forest Service has said that they will carry the rest, and Summit County and Denver Water and everybody else. If I had 10 million, I would probably just put that into some infrastructure and fortify it, make it a safer place to be. That's probably what I would do with 10 million. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Andy. Robyn. Same question.
I've never had a $10 million grant without strings attached, so that's exciting. Just like everybody said, it's hard to say this goes towards one specific thing, but one thing that I can commend staff on and current council is adopting this comprehensive plan and our 10-year capital plan. Those show exactly what we need that money for, and I think that that's where it would go, towards what we've already researched, what we've already asked the community, what's important to them, being able to accommodate that and not just continue to put it on the back burner. Like Andy said, $100 million worth of things on the 10-year capital plan. We could use $10 million to help push all of that through. One thing that came to mind as I thought about this question, I recently had the opportunity to attend the Mountain Towns 2030 Climate Change Conference, and I went to a session about fire mitigation. And one of the big challenges facing some other communities is that neighbors aren't taking care of their houses. Neighbors aren't, it takes a community to be able to make a community resilient to wildfire. So one thing that I think would be really awesome with our new wildfire resiliency codes being adopted is to be able to provide grants to community members to be able to do the work to make our neighbors safer. It takes a community to do this work, and it's expensive to be able to chop down trees, put up new siding, whatever we need to do to make our neighborhoods resilient to a destructive wildfire would cost a lot of money. So I think spreading that amongst the community, allowing us to be able to accomplish that would be really impactful.
Town cleanup, but for wildfire.
Exactly.
All right, Thayer.
If we were to get a $10 million grant, I would first put on sort of my businessman hat and figure out what is the biggest ROI for us. I see it breaking down into kind of two buckets. First is wildfire mitigation. I would spend $5 million this year to hire whatever crews we can to go up there and reduce the fuels in Frisco backyard. It's going to be a dry summer. If a fire came through, we're looking at billions, probably, of dollars of loss. So we're turning $5 million into essentially avoided costs of billions of dollars. The second thing, and kind of building on what I was talking before, is how do we encourage business growth here in Frisco? So I'd take the second $5 million and put together a study, figure out how we can incentivize both light industrial growth, warehouse growth, and then business office growth. So when I'm talking to master electricians who are looking to start their business, they need a warehouse to put all their wire and equipment in. I've talked to a startup up here who's rapidly growing. They wanted to open an office in Frisco but couldn't find the adequate space. So what incentives can we put in place for the private market to kind of build those spaces? In line with that, I would also invest money in fiber and have reliable internet up here. I don't know how many times I've kind of lost a call because of poor Comcast. So I'd like to see some fiber. And then finally is cell phone improvements. That is both a safety, I think, and also economic benefit right there if we can improve. I feel like I walk around Frisco and all I have is 1 to 2 bars at most. Thank you.
Thank you, Thayer. Mark.
I'm going to keep standing because I am still short. All right, so I'm going to first do some magic because $10 million is, who cares? Poof, it's $100 million. So now I got $100 million. What am I going to do? Okay, now that's a meaningful number for the town. So I am a business guy. What would I do? I'd go survey my staff. I'd go survey the committee. I'd start making a list of the projects. I'd start prioritizing them. I see which ones have short-term, which one has long-term benefits. I fit them into the current existing plan. I identify the long-term plan that Frisco has and identify where that best fits. And then we'd sit down as a town council, the ones who make the decisions, and we'd allocate those funds to the best satisfaction of the entire community, as best as we can to fit the needs of everybody else. That is not an easy process. That is something that has to be done. Now, I'm going to cheat again, because I'm going to take $1 million of that because I love Eric, and I'm going to throw a party because the community deserves a good party. We haven't had a good party in a while. The old 4th of July used to be amazing with the fireworks and everything, so I take $1 million. But the rest of it, it's a whole process. It takes, you can't just say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You have to take everybody into consideration and weight the benefits across both long-term and short-term. Thanks.
Thank you, Mark. Alex.
All right. I'm not going to mention anything about housing. You already all know where I stand on that. There are other things in the community that I care about. One, thankfully, a lot of people have mentioned, and I'm glad that the current town council is doing some stuff about it. There's more that we need to be doing is fire prevention, mitigation, and adaptation. I think this summer is going to be really scary, and I hope that I'm wrong about that. More importantly, again, $10 million doesn't go that far when we're talking about a capital expenditure or infrastructure project. So I would like to start like a revolving fund run by the town. We have a lot of talented, smart, creative, interesting people in this community. Why not have the town run a program to give out small loans to people to do different projects around the town? Small business loan, home equity loan, arts projects, events, anyone who's tried to get any sort of mortgage or small business loan or anything right now knows that the interest rates are ridiculous. It's prohibitive. You can't do anything about it. So if the town just had this money, we could reinvest it in our community, sprinkle it around to a bunch of different projects, let the people tell us what they want to do with it. And then, if there's some small ROI for the town, 1%, 2% interest rate on those small loans, then that fund continues in perpetuity and we can keep using that to do other stuff around the town. Also, again, this has been a hard winter. I like that everyone wants to throw a party for the people, right? That wouldn't cost that much. I'm fortunate enough to work down at the marina every summer. The larger concerts that we've been doing down there in the summertime on the new lawn have been great. Not only is that something that the townspeople look forward to, but it is also a reason to have visitors and tourists come to our town for those shows, spend money on Main Street, on Summit Boulevard, stay in our lodging. So why not start a concert series down there, in addition to the nice ones down at the historic park, but some larger bands once a month or so, through the spring, summer, and fall. Maybe some mud season activities there too.
Thank you, Alex. Brian.
Well, everybody spent my money already. Thank you, guys. To me, this is a tourist town and also a community. So we need to do things that are going to benefit both. We need tourist dollars, period. That's where the sales revenue comes from. So I would take the $10 million and try to start a bunch of smaller activity-based businesses here in town. I'm going to use one that's going to make you laugh, but it is actually a viable solution, and that is curling, for example, or other sports events that we could do here all year round. Whether you need snow or not, we're going to get some cold temperatures. We may not get the snow. We don't know. So I would try to take that $10 million and spend most of that trying to set up activities that the city could run, similar to our Nordic Center activities here, similar to what we're looking at here with the tubing hill and so forth, and try to generate more revenue. $10 million wouldn't go very far with infrastructure. I mean, $10 million would barely put a sewer line in a place. So I would spend my money that way. And if you guys all want to have a party, I think we should do that too. That's great.
Consensus party? Yeah? There's people in here that can make that happen. All right. Two left, Zach. The grant.
Well, I'm going to go ahead to our comprehensive plan to kind of guide my answer here. One of the goals there is going to be inclusive and an accessible community. That's what I asked on the last answer. I want everyone to participate. I want a survey. I want to understand what our community needs. We have elected representatives. We can't read your mind. We need you all to come out and share with us what you want us to do. A second part is going to be connectivity for all. So one thing that's going to help our community in huge ways is a regional transit authority. Increased transit between our communities, that's Breckenridge to Frisco, that's also Leadville to Frisco. We would love if everyone can live here, and we're going to continue to work to make sure that people can live here, but we also need to support those who want to live in Lake County and come make their living here. Regional transit authority would be a great way to do that. It would meet our climate action plans, reducing individual drives, and that rolls into infrastructure, complete streets, making sure that folks can either ride the bus, they can drive their car, or they can ride their bicycle and walk throughout town. So complete streets is infrastructure, it's safety, it's also keeping our town infrastructure safe. Housing affordability, there's unique ways to tackle that. It's not just building brand new units. Programs like Housing Helps. Housing Helps generally gives about 20% down on somebody to buy a retail market home, turn that into a deed restricted home. If we wanted to spend $2 million of this $10 million, that would be 20 units, $1 million units, sell for $800,000. That is right in the price range of most of our Peak One homeowners who might want to get out of their Peak One home, move into a single family. That then opens up, it trickles down, it opens up those 20 new units to the next generation. And then wildfire resilience. Let's work with the Forest Service, let's make this happen, let's protect our town and those homes that we do have. Exit 203 is a great start. Mixed use zoning on Summit Boulevard is housing and business.
Thank you, Zach. And finally, Elizabeth on this question.
Okay, everyone took all my answers, so I'm just kidding. I really like what Robyn and Zach had said. My first thought was going to our new, just finished comprehensive plan and looking through those pages and seeing where we can make a difference if we had extra money and make some of those things happen. There was a lot of work that went into that plan from the community. You guys all contributed to it. So it would be really cool to accomplish some of the things that were identified that maybe are lower down on the list. A couple other things that crossed my mind. I'm on the Summit County Transit Board, and like Zach, we would really like to see an RTA, public transportation, expand in Summit County and Frisco, covering that last mile. You know, the route to Leadville just recently, at the last minute, got some funding from CDOT so that they could continue some of their Leadville trips because they couldn't afford it. So all of these things it's just a delicate balance, you know, depending on funding and grants and whether or not some of these services can continue. A couple other things, like Durant was saying, you know, like what could we do for our aging population? What opportunities are there? What are the steps we need to take to identify some of the things that we can do keeping these folks in our community? I know a lot of them. They've spent a lot of time talking to me. I would like to see in the future what's a realistic plan. And then another thing that came onto my brain was scholarships for kids in winter and summer camps, making those accessible, expanding camps if we had the opportunity, just to give our youth opportunities to participate in sports and different activities, whether it's on the marina, well, maybe not. Oh, sorry.
Thank you. And thank you, candidates, for answering those questions. Now we're going to move on to the closing statements, and we're going to go back to ballot order. So we'll be starting down on your end, Mark. Yeah, you can use this time as you wish to make your last argument to voters.
Again, I want to thank you all for being here. This is amazing. Literally more people here than every single person at the Breckenridge and Silverthorne Forum. So really amazing. And that's what I mean by community. So I've talked a lot about community. I had closing remarks, but I've actually said everything in those closing remarks. So what I want to say is just to do a little self talk here in the sense that I've been here for 23 years. I've run a business successfully for 23 years. To do that through multiple recessions, through changes in all kinds of government and all kinds of chaos when it comes to weather and stuff like that, means that I've worked very hard to keep people together, to make people work together. I work every day with tourists, with employees, with business owners, with governments, with residents, with second homeowners. My job is to make people work together to create success within the community and within my business. And I hope you'll use that as a metric by which to give me your support when you vote. Thank you.
And Alex.
All right, again, my name is Alex Beach. Thanks everybody for coming. I just want to say, I don't have all the answers. I'm just a concerned community member who's passionate about our town. We thankfully have really good staff at the town. People I would reach out to if you elected me on council to help, guide policy and make things happen. I can promise you that the lens that I would look at every issue through would be that of, the local, long-time working resident here, right? So how that would guide every decision, what's going to be best for the local community here in town. Also, we're going to have a little bit of time for questions afterwards, but not a lot. So if anyone wants to talk a little bit more, I'm going to be at one of our fine local businesses on Prosit down on Main Street after this. Feel free to come by. Let's have a conversation. That's how I know most of you is bartending around town. We chat over the bar. Let's go have a beer. Let's talk about what's going on in the community, what's important to you. So hopefully I can represent you on council coming up. I don't have a high enough pay grade to make that decision, but we can ask Scott when we get there.
Here's a grant for that.
Our party grant right there, yeah.
And Eric, you're next.
I'm glad you all liked my ideas about the party. We're not going to convey everything tonight, so my invitation to you in closing is to reach out to me. Unfortunately, you see my face in the newspaper more often than you would like, so the number's right there. That's a sincere invitation. There's a couple things we didn't get to touch on. I misplaced his name. I had it with me. Is the CDOT engineer here in attendance tonight? He lives, Grant. I don't see him. Grant's going to be one of our best friends over the next 2 years. The 18-wheelers potentially rolling down Main Street is not only uncomfortable, we need to have a plan. We need to lean heavily on our communications representative. I won't mention her name again. But the message needs to be clear. It also needs to be enforceable as a town. We experienced this when Main Street was closed and the traffic was concentrated onto Granite. So for more on these type of topics, reach out, and thank you for having me this evening.
Thank you for being here, everybody. Community engagement is amazing. I think it demonstrates why 12 people are running. We love Frisco. Frisco is being run pretty darn well. Tom and his team and the rest of the staff is doing a great job. I would love to just help inform that. I think I bring kind of diverse opinions. I've been an electrician, management consultant. I've worked in aerospace, and I've owned a company up here. I want to bring what I've learned over that time to the new projects that face Frisco. I'm lucky enough to have 3 generations of my family here. We're here for the long term, and I want to see my kids grow up in a town they love and hopefully come back because there are plentiful jobs and community here. I would love to hear from you guys. I have a website. It's Thayer 4frisco.com. If you want to grab a cup of coffee, you can just reach out to me on there. And I look forward to hearing what you think. Thanks.
I would say, actually, I'm going to put it a little bit on you. Do these people represent you? It's really up to you as our constituency to make sure that your representatives are representing you in the right light. We're never going to agree on everything, but are we doing the good work? Are we doing the right work? Are we missing a lot? If we're missing things that you guys can identify, come talk to your representatives. That's the only way to make things move forward. If we don't hear anything from involved citizens or citizens who are not involved, then we're not asking the right questions. And so with that, I hope you'll consider re-electing me. Thank you.
I also want to thank everyone for attending tonight. I know everyone has a lot of responsibilities and other things going on in their life, so to take the time to be here tonight, very grateful for that and to be part of this community. I think the theme tonight overarching is that Frisco is such a special place. I think we heard a lot of common goals as everyone spoke tonight, and a lot of good ideas. The role, as I see, of Town Council is to plan and act to accomplish those goals and implement the ideas. And I think in addition to making sure that we have the community feedback so we know what everyone's goals and ideas are, the next step is to find a compromise. And my work experience and my day-to-day, every day, is working with parties with different goals to reach whatever's the best compromise for everyone. And that would be how I would approach being on Town Council. Also, we've been talking a lot about a lot of big ideas. You know, Town Council day-to-day requires getting into the weeds, and I think I could do that for you.
So I still have $10 million or no? I don't remember how that works. At the end of the day, this is an election about what you want this community to be. And where I feel like we're missing out a little bit is that community engagement piece. In my old roles in Apple and Compaq and whatnot, I was a change agent. That meant finding out where the opportunities were and taking advantage of them through feedback. And so I believe we have some good community engagement mechanisms in place right now, but I think it could be a lot better. We don't have districts and that sort of thing where you can meet in smaller groups, but I do believe we should have more engagement like this where we can have questions asked back and forth, maybe a little bit more maybe a little bit more relaxed, but an opportunity for you all to hear the questions from everyone else so you can be part of that community. So hopefully if I'm elected, you'll give me that chance and I would show up ready to go. Thank you.
I just want to say once again, thank you all for showing up. Like everybody has said, community engagement is huge. Us as council members, we aren't mind readers. We try to engage the community as much as we can to really understand what the needs and wants are of our community. With that being said, a few of the things that I haven't had a chance to talk a little bit about is the 203 exit interchange. I do live right by Natural Grocers. I will feel that every day. I hear about it from my neighbors every day, and I think it's really important, especially with this moving forward, that there is representation on that side of town for this 203 exit interchange. And also, I just really want to be able to continue to support the social services that we have in town. The camps, the child care, senior services, super important to the longevity of our community. And so I just want to say thank you for listening to me. It's been such a true honor to be able to represent each and every one of you throughout this past year, and I really hope that I get to continue doing that.
We are always responsible to listen to our townspeople, but I came here tonight, I wanted you to make sure I had done my research, I've identified specific problems, I've got some specific ideas, and I hope to bring those to the council and hopefully for the benefit of the town. With the few seconds I have left though, I just also wanted to mention some ideas for Main Street. I like the events at the park, but I feel a lot of events we have don't necessarily translate to foot traffic down Main Street. I know it's a pain in the butt to shut down Main Street. I have to drive across it every time. But trying to do more events on Main Street that involve more of Main Street and coming up with cross promotions that actually encourage these people to enter the stores, and preferably events that aren't, as alcohol centric, like the barbecue festival. That wasn't necessarily the greatest thing for Main Street. I like the parklets, but I think we could be more decorative with them. We could have themes. They could be decorated by charitable organizations. There could even be a competition to get your parklet done for free if yours was voted the best. And in terms of fire risk, I think drones are the answer to no fireworks.
Thanks everyone for coming. It's really, really, really cool to see this room so full, and it makes me feel like we're just all together, and I hope you feel that too. Like, it's very meaningful that people love Frisco so much. I would like to keep going. I have a lot of things that I want to see through to the end. I'm still passionate about getting Granite Street figured out. I'd love to participate with community development and focus on Summit Boulevard and look at some opportunities down there to maybe, I don't even know. We're going to talk about it, but I want to be there for it. I'm pumped about it, I want to see these affordable housing units get finished. I want to make sure our wildfire mitigation and resiliency plan is followed through to the T. I want to make sure some of these things are finished. And, I'm going to keep pushing, or however you can push for an RTA. It's a funding issue, thanks.
Thank you guys again for all being here. One of the double-edged swords of having so much involvement and interest in running for council is we had to shorten this from 5 questions to 3 questions. In my opinion, 3 questions isn't enough for me to accurately portray how I want to beneficially serve you guys, and you guys to learn enough about me, or quite frankly, anyone that's a new face up here. So I would encourage you all to reach out to us. My cell phone will be publicly available. I'll be here afterwards. I'm happy to give out my cell phone number to anyone. I'll grab a cup of coffee, a meal, or just a phone call with every single one of you to be able to better and accurately portray what I can bring to the table and how I can serve you guys. The great thing is we do have this interest, and this is a great start. Thank you for the Town of Frisco, Crystal 93, Summit Daily, as well as Stacy for putting this on. But it's a great start to getting to know your potential council members. So I would encourage you all to reach out to us, because I'll be doing everything I can to get in front of you. Thank you.
I just want to say thanks to everyone for being here. Everyone at this table is extremely impressive. It's exciting that we have this much participation. I want to say that I've talked to Andy Searles about aging in place. I've talked to Sharon about paving or plowing the upper lot at the PRA. I've talked to Mary, Brian, and Margie about tennis in public parks. I've talked to CB about ski coaches having health care. I'm here to listen to you all, to have these conversations. Oh, I forgot. I talked to Fatty about excessive spending. I'm the youngest person at this table. I've already served, and I want to continue to serve because I work here, I live here, I'm involved in the community, I have a kid in the school. I want to make that lifestyle accessible to every age, every stage of your life in Frisco, whether first year or it's your 50th year. My whole adult life has been shaped by Frisco because I moved here the day after college to work at Copper Mountain. Again, every stage, every age, let's make this community open to everybody. Let's talk. Let me earn your vote. Say hello. My cell phone will be available. I want to chat with you all. Let me hear what's going on, and let's make it happen. Let's make Frisco amazing. Thank you.